Hey everybody, welcome to the MMA podcast. I'm Karyn Bryant.
What's up, guys? Jouban here.
So we got a lot to talk about this week. I need to start my clock. I didn't start the clock. Here we go. So we get a little warmed up here for a little bit, and then we have a few rounds, 5 rounds here. And today, we'll talk about UFC Phoenix. Obviously, the great BJ Penn lost to Yair. We'll talk about that. Maybe some of the stuff about the new rules. Tito and Chael are fighting. But Alan, I know, the last time we saw you last week, you were really campaigning hard for RDA for UFC 209. What's the latest? Do you have any movement on that?
Man, I have been lobbying, man. I have been working my tail off, Karyn. Yeah. We're still waiting. We're still waiting, but we've taken initiative. Obviously last we spoke, I called out RDA, at least asking for that fight. We took the initiative. We contacted RDA's manager, Ali, and tried to get him on board. Said, look, man, if we email the UFC and you email the UFC and say, look, we want this fight, then it's a no-brainer. It's less work for them, and they love that when you put fights together.
Totally.
Less work, yeah. And I don't think they did. I don't think they fulfilled that on their end. I'm not sure where they want to go if they're looking for somebody else. Mm-hmm. But when we spoke to them, when we spoke to Ali, we said, look, do you guys have an initiative? Do you have a plan? Do you want a certain fight, or do you have a path that you want to take? And they said, no, we're just kind of open to moving up weight and seeing who comes. So I was the first guy to speak up. I've been staying consistent with it, speaking up. I'm hoping that if I keep hammering this nail long enough, they're just going to break and say, you know what, okay, well, let's take this fight. I'm not a disrespectful guy, but I'm kind of hoping that in a way it issues almost a challenge to them, because I keep going in the media saying, I want this fight. I haven't heard back from anything. Hopefully they just kind of, get to the point where they say, look, all right, let's take this. We can't take more. So we'll see what happens. But, like I said, I think the UFC has a lot on their hands right now. Now that Joe Silva's gone, they're changing new matchmakers for new weight classes. And so everything's taking a little bit longer to match fights up right now.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, too, there have been some fights made where they're shaking their heads a little bit. So I think, there, like you said, there's a little bit of like a transition of power going on there and getting things right. But I do hope you get it. I think it's a nice fight, and I think RDA would probably like that because you're not a wrestler. You're not you know what I mean? You're a guy that's going to go in there and throw hands, and both of you guys would I think it'd be great. I hope you get it.
Yeah, it'd be a good, exciting fight. It'd be a good addition if we could get on the March 4th card in Vegas. It'd be a good addition to that.
Yeah, I'm working that show. I want to, I love it when I get to call one of your fights. Although it makes me very nervous. Like, part of me is like, yeah, I know. And then I have to sit there and on the air and not be biased at all, pretending, So, and that one's going to be interesting again anyway because Tyron is fighting Wonder Boy. I like both those guys a lot. They're both really good dudes. So that one, you just somebody please don't get hurt, and can we just have a winner this time? But yes, I'm looking forward to that. All right, well, we are here in round 1, and we want to talk about BJ Penn and Yair Rodriguez. I feel like going into this fight, we were both kind of like, well, if it's the BJ that we know and love, if like the quote unquote old BJ shows up, like he could just totally choke him out and do something ridiculous, and it could be a war. Or the Yair who has shown how good he is against Alex Caceres and how just this guy is sort of the next gen. He could just go in there and be super flashy and let everything go. And that's what happened. Were you surprised, upset? How'd you feel about it?
I wasn't surprised in the outcome of just the win and the loss. I was surprised somewhat that BJ looked that slow, And, I want to say he kind of had that, like, deer in the headlights look. It's tough. When you're losing or you're hurt or you take a big shot early in the fight, you go into a state like, crap, I have to fight myself out of a hole. Yeah. But he really reminded me of, you remember when Holly Holm was beating Ronda, and Ronda just looked so wide-eyed, and you could tell she was in a place she's never really been before. BJ kind of had that look very early on, and it worried me. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't shocked at the outcome, but I was shocked at the dominance, the speed of Yair, the way he was picking him apart, and credit to Yair. I think last time we spoke, Yair's last fight, was it the main event where he had
against Caceres? And we were kind of wondering, like, they're both so unpredictable and flashy, like, how's this going to go? And we were a little bummed that there wasn't a finish, but It was cool.
Exactly. It was a fun fight, but I remember saying to people, there was no danger factor in that fight. Like when you throw fancy stuff and they're landing at 50% power, it's not that like danger factor. Like when you have like a dangerous fighter fighting like a Yo Romero, you're like, holy crap, you don't want to get hit with anything, or guys like that. So I felt like Yair tweaked some things in this fight, and he came out and said, "Look, I am a dangerous fighter. Everything he threw was 100% power and precision. It wasn't. Some of it was fancy, but it was finishing blows. It wasn't just fancy blows." And he looked like a little bit like he's starting to fill out in his body as well. Man, it looked a little bit more bulky. So yeah, I was just bummed to see BJ. Time had caught up with him in the movement and the speed of his body. He wasn't performing like the BJ Penn of the old days.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I thought same thing that Yair, he really showed himself to be a future champion there. I thought, I mean, granted, BJ was more static, and so it was easy for Yair to land these things, but he was so precise. I mean, so many of these head kicks, he's throwing spin and stuff. Everything was just landing, and like you said, he did seem to be a little bit more powerful this time as well. I definitely felt like I noticed the size difference there, and maybe part of it too is, this is a cut to 45 for BJ. He's a former lightweight champ, a former welterweight champ. The older you get, we know sometimes the harder it is to make these lighter weights. So I don't know if it was something about that this is just not the right weight. I mean, I have it's hard to say. People have always criticized him, near the end, how motivated was he in the gym? How this, how that? Well, obviously he must have been motivated enough to be able to make that weight. But you do kind of wonder, like, should he have just tried to fight at 55? The renewed, energy, but maybe it would have been better at 55. I don't know. And Yair was, just the sort of right kind of wrong opponent in that he is so flashy and unpredictable. It would have been cool to give BJ somebody who was just a little bit more of a standard fighter. And I don't mean I wanted him to have an easy fight, but you know what I mean? Yair is so next gen. That was like, I don't know.
That would be my stronger case for the fight, would be not so much the weight cut, more so the opponent. I'm not sure what the UFC or the matchmakers were thinking when they said, you know what, if BJ's thinking of making a comeback, and let's throw him to this young lion who we're really trying to push and promote right now, like what did they think was going to happen? It's just stylistically a bad matchup. Youth and age versus youth, a bad matchup. A kicker versus a guy who wants to get in close and box, a bad matchup. It wasn't a good matchup. His previous fight they had to fall out on at the Forum. Wasn't BJ scheduled to fight Dennis Seaver?
No, Lamas. He was supposed to fight Lamas.
Was it Lamas or Seaver?
In Manila.
Oh, was that the one? Okay, so
if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he was. Maybe there was a Seaver one before, but I'm pretty sure he was supposed to fight Lamas, and then that whole card got canceled.
The whole card got canceled. Right. But was he supposed to fight at the Forum at one point against Dennis Seaver, or am I just making...
right. Do you know what, honestly?
Either way, our MMA detailed history doesn't have to be precise. Right. But what I'm getting, either of those opponents would have been a much favorable matchup for BJ, and a much more fan-friendly fight. It would have been more competitive, like you said. Somebody so dynamic and long like Yair, such a bad matchup, man. And the guy's super fast, man. He's super fast. BJ obviously looked a little bit slower, being a little bit more stationary. He was just able to open up everything he wanted. And I think Yair is an orthodox fighter. He fought southpaw the entire fight. I'm sure he switched his stance quite a bit, but he switched stance on BJ through nothing but power shots. And right away, that first leg kick that BJ took, I was thinking, oh my God, BJ doesn't want to be in here. When you take a powerful leg kick to the knee in the opening frame and it just buckles you like that, and you probably, holy crap, this is going to be such a long fight. I've been in that position before, and I can see in BJ's eyes, shit, I'm not going to be able to box this guy. He's going to be kicking the crap out of me. Yeah,
that does suck. Yeah, Wade just double-checked. He was supposed to fight Seaver at 199. Yeah, you're right. And so... But that one got fell apart, and then he was supposed to fight Lamas. In Manila.
That much. I mean, I'm not sure what BJ is going to do now, and we can discuss this if he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to.
We're in round 2. I wanted to keep talking about BJ. Yeah.
Okay. After seeing that performance, I would rather see BJ hang it up. And you've seen Dana White. They've quoted him before of saying something like, I love these guys, talking about guys like Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes, BJ Penn. but I can't make money off of them if they're going to be getting beat up. But that's what we saw. You know, we saw BJ main event something and he got beat up and it was sad to watch. I personally would like to see him hang it up. He's already done so much. We all love him. Don't tarnish it or even aside from the legacy, don't get beat up anymore. You know, you've been in enough fights. If he said, you know what, I want another crack at it, I get it. BJ is a fighter above all fighters. He's a fighter in his heart. Give him that Dennis Seaver fight. Give him somebody more favorable or more competitive matchup.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were at the third Penn Frankie Edgar fight, you know, when they fought at the Ultimate Fighter finale, and that was a tough fight. You know, BJ wasn't really himself that fight. Not to take anything away from Frankie, because Frankie was great. And I remember being at that press conference, and BJ was so upset, and it was really hard because he, at that moment, you know, thought he was retiring, and you know, and did retire. And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody in the room, it was so incredibly emotional. And I actually was, it was one of those things where you're like, okay, I know it's hard for him, but I believe, you know, it's the end. But like you just said, he is a fighter, and I could see how that won't go away. But I would love it now if BJ just becomes that guy that just shreds at tournaments doing jiu-jitsu, or, you know, becomes that guy who can take that amazing gift that he already obviously had, and just kind of do that game for a while. You know what I mean? People would still love to see him compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I feel like that is obviously a better match. Nobody's kicking him in the head, and you would still be able to see that finesse and that art that he has, that that's not going away.
Karyn, I think that was brilliant. I'm going to call Eddie Bravo after this podcast. I'm going to say, dude, call BJ Penn and get him on the next EBI.
Yes.
That would be, everybody would lose their shit if BJ Penn was competing on EBI or any jiu-jitsu tournament, a big one with on the main stage where he's still, you know, fighting on a fight pass or something. He's still getting that competitive nature. There's still money to be won. I think that's brilliant, man. I'm gonna go text them right now.
That's right. Let's hit that up. And for Yair, you know, I know you're saying, I feel like the philosophy may have been, okay, hey, Yair is amazing. He's a star on the rise. If he beats this legend, like, wow, what a notch in his belt. If he loses to a legend, how much of a setback would that even really be for him? I think you could still, you know, build him up as a guy who, you know, he just wasn't ready for the legend yet, but, you know, we know he's, you know, this, that, and the other thing. So I feel like Yair really sort of didn't, it was a win-win for him. And then, you know what I mean, to be able to come out and do as well as he did. He's really likable. He has so much going on for him. Bilingual, good-looking kid, obviously really talented. Like, you look at him in there, you're like, this dude's a star. This dude is a star in the making. I think it's really exciting to see. That 45 division is awesome right now.
You know, I think another thing that he does well, you said he's a star. He balances being a good guy and a bad guy pretty well, because he's obviously a very good guy. He's very polite, well-spoken, well-mannered, very respectful, which I very much appreciate. But you always have to have a little bit. Wait, actually, like the internet thing right now.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna sprinkle.
You gotta have a little bit of that spice. You gotta have a little bit of flavor. Right. You know what I mean? A little bit of edge to be competitive, to be well known. And you could see when he walked into the octagon, he wasn't that guy looking up to BJ anymore. Yeah. He was very competitive. He was looking at BJ. I saw when they were touching gloves. He touched gloves, but he was like, I'm here to take you out, bro, because this is my time. Yep. And you see that competitive fire, and I feel like it would grow and grow the more comfortable he gets speaking in front of camera and this and that. So he's got everything it takes, man. You know, he's very respectful, but he's got that fire inside of him. That's
nice. That's right. All right. Well, perfect timing here for round 3. Let's get into. I got a question for you. Who did you think won the Lauzon held fight?
Oh. Well, yeah. Obviously, that was a very bad decision on the judges. Let me just refresh my memory. It was a split decision win for Joe Lauzon. They gave him the win, but he probably lost all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I thought it was actually unanimous, 29-28.
Oh, you know what it was? Actually, no. It was split. I think one judge had, what was his opponent's name again?
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. So Marcin held. We put it on our Facebook page. I have the scorecard. So Marcin held. Was fighting Joe Lauzon. Marcin, we fought Diego Sanchez in his first fight, and he kept trying to get the leg lock, and he didn't, so he lost to Diego Sanchez. And they give him another guy, another sick grappler like Joe Lauzon. But yeah, after the fight, Joe said he thought that Marcin held won the fight. Like right away, shaking his head. He's like, no, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't think Joe won, and he was saying something to the effect of, he's been on the other side of those things, like even his last fight with Jim Miller, where, and I kind of thought he won that one too up in Vancouver, and he's like, oh, I didn't wait a minute. So it's nice to get sort of that karma back, but at the same time he's honest enough. He's like, I didn't win that fight, and supposedly he was kind of begging them to not fire Marcin held after that because now he's 0-2 in the UFC.
They can't. I mean, you can't fire him. He won that fight. I think, I could be wrong, I think one of the judges had it correct and had Marcin held 30-27, which maybe you could have given Joe one round, and the other two judges had 29-28, Joe Lauzon.
Yeah, two 29-28s for Joe, one 30-27 for held.
The one judge saw it pretty clearly, and the other two judges, I don't know what the hell they were looking at. It would have been so easy, Karyn. It would have been so easy for Joe to get on the microphone and go, you know what? I'm just here to do my job.
Right.
Obviously, the judges saw what they were looking for, and I'm just grateful to, I do what I do. I come out here, I listen to my coaches, and I came out with the win. Mm-hmm. That would have been the safe thing to say. But Joe's been in there so many times. He's such a good guy. He's an honest guy. He's got so many fight of the night performances. He said, you know what, dude? I don't agree. He didn't even say, I think I might have lost that fight. He said, I don't agree with the decision. He pretty much said, your decision is wrong. You guys did not see this correctly. I lost that fight clearly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everybody pretty much respects Joe Lauzon, but he got even more respect. You can see he was shocked, man. I mean, when they announced his name, even when the second judge, when they said, one for Held, Marcin Held, and then the second judge said Joe was like, what is happening here? And then when the third judge said Joe, he's like, this is crazy.
Right.
I gotta say too, the judges were off that night, man. Ben Saunders.
Okay, because that's the one I'm thinking of. Right, that one was unanimous, and I was like, I literally had started tweeting.
Yeah.
I just was waiting for the score, but I had already put win for Court McGee, and I was just like waiting to put the numbers in, and I was like, say what?
This one wasn't as crazy. This one was a close fight.
It was.
But if you were scoring it round for round, I saw it pretty clearly. Like I said, it wasn't a robbery, but pretty clearly Ben Saunders losing, Court McGee winning. Ben Saunders, let me just say, is a friend of mine. I'm a fan of him, and he's just an awesome guy.
He really is.
You never met Ben yet. Other people, fans, if you haven't met Ben, he's just like a super good energy type of guy, man. Such a cool guy to meet. If you get a chance to train with him, he trains all over the place. Yeah. With that said, I was rooting for Ben the entire time, but judging it at home, I said, you know what? Maybe Ben could have won the first round. Mm-hmm. It was close. Yeah. First round was. The second was McGee. Yep. And then the third round was obviously a loss on Ben Saunders. So I said, you know what? It's got to be 29-28, possibly 30-27. I thought Ben lost. Mm-hmm. You could see in Ben's eyes when they announced his name, he was kind of like, okay. But he didn't take it as far as Joe saying, I don't disagree with that decision, because it was a much closer fight. But
it was.
From that fight, I thought, okay, the judges are off tonight. The judges are off. What else are we going to see? And then when the co-main event happened with Joe Lauzon, I said, okay, we got to get something happening here. We got to correct this.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, obviously, near the end, it was all Court McGee. And same with you. Like, I think Ben is such a great guy, and it was such a close fight. Like, I didn't sit there and go, oh my God, robbery and whatever, because it was really close. But it was funny. I was like, wait, Court didn't win that fight, which is tough for him. Both those guys, veterans, every fight, obviously, no matter where you are in your career, every win, every loss matters. But these guys, for that kind of fight, it was so, I don't know. And they had a lot of respect for each other afterwards. But yeah, I just thought that was a little bit tough. I mean, it wasn't the biggest robbery in the world, but it was a close fight. Tough loss for Court McGee, though, on that one. I I mean, because what do you feel like? I feel like, you know how Masvidal is always saying, like, he's lost these fights. He's like, what did I need to do to prove to you I won it? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I guess sometimes it's literally that the one judge can't see from his seat what you were doing over there. I don't know.
And you know what? I mean, I know we're going to speak about some rule changes. Yeah. This fight didn't really...
Let's get into it. Yeah, in round 4, rule changes. Yeah.
Right. So there are some new rule changes this year, 3 prominent ones. This fight, though, didn't really have any of those rule changes that could have wavered. You know, right. I'm thinking maybe with the new rule changes, judges still aren't that clear on how to score it, on things like that. But to me, these fights, 2016 rules and 2017 rules, the outcome to me was still pretty obvious of who could have won. With that said, there are new rule changes. You know, obviously, there's the finger poke that they spoke about the entire show. It seemed like about hands need to be up, not down. If they're down in a position like this, then you're gonna get warned by the ref. And what are the other two?
So yeah, there's that, and then there's now no longer, if you only have one hand down on the ground, you're still considered a standing fighter, because you know people love to play that game. No, you can't knee me. Yes, you can knee me. No, you can't knee me. No, you can. You know, and it's really hard for the refs to get in there sometimes and to know whether one landed right when the guy's hand came up or not. And you know, a lot of people like to criticize fighters and say that that's kind of a, you know, cheap move to just play the hand game. I don't know.
It's one hand now, so like if you have 2 hands, you're down.
Yes.
But if one comes off, now you're up.
One hand is considered standing. So and that's fair, because I'm sure you've been in that situation where somebody's just playing that little game with you, and they're not really down. You know, they're just playing that game.
It makes sense when you think about base, the base of your body. Mm-hmm. If somebody pushes you hard enough and you're gonna fall on your face, you have to put both hands down.
Right.
If somebody pushes you hard enough, you're probably not gonna be able to keep yourself up with one hand most percentage of the time. One hand is more like a balance. Right. So you really still have your base, which makes sense. You still are a standing fighter. You still have your base under you. If your 2 hands are down, that means your base is gone. You need your hands for support. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then the last one was if you're on your back, you are allowed to strike at the kidneys of the standing fighter. I'm curious how you feel about that, because that's one of those things, like the up kicks. Anytime I see somebody from the ground throwing kicks, like I just really worry about people's heads. But I'm okay with you kicking the crap out of somebody's body.
I don't know why this was illegal to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, like this guy's throwing little chip shots from the guard. Like, it's just uncomfortable. It's not going to really do any permanent damage on anyone. I don't know why that wasn't. And guys have kind of always done it, and I feel like the referees never really knew if it was illegal. Or only about a year or 2 ago, you start seeing referees say, no, you can't do that. Right. But I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, like, people were always doing it. So it's kind of been one of those like hidden rules. But so I think it should have been legal a long time ago. Now it is. Good for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because a lot of that stuff anyway is kind of up to the ref to get in there and do it. I mean, how many times have you watched a fight where you're like, I swear to God, that looks like a 12 o'clock elbow, or that looks like it's past the line of his ears, that's back of the head. I mean, there's always going to be some weird little judgment thing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about illegal shots is it's hard on the ref, because the referees have to judge what's more prominent, the momentum of the fight or the illegal foul. Because if somebody is swinging the momentum of their fight heavily and they're dominating a guy and they throw a small chip shot illegal blow, they shouldn't stop the fight for it, you know? But if it's something illegal where I'm getting beat up on the feet and I'm desperately trying to take you down, and right before I take you down, you grab the cage. Yeah. Now that determined what was going to happen in the fight. Yeah. That illegal foul should be much more taken care of that way. But yeah, so you see it sometimes where a guy's getting beat up anyway. The fight's almost over. He might land behind the head once or twice, but the momentum of the fight didn't differ. So you just see him warn it. So that's where it gets very tricky for the referee to determine what's more important of the fight.
Well, and also speaking of referees, at Invicta, no, it's cool. Just get choked out. Like, it's cool. Get choked out. Oh, and you can come back and win the fight.
That's crazy.
That was nuts. I know people were kind of going crazy about that. That Invicta card was fun, and Megan Anderson in the main event is now the interim champ. She put the hurt on Charmaine tweet. And they were lucky they had that on a free weekend. I think that was like the perfect fight card to get people excited about watching the women on Invicta. So that was kind of fun. Well, that brings us to the end of round 4. I'm sorry, Alan, I didn't have my bell turned up very loud. So maybe you didn't hear it, but take a sip. It's a water break here. Do you need an end swell or anything? Do you need a?
I might need some Neosporin. You know, these jiu-jitsu rash guards that they make these days, they're getting so rough they're like sandpaper. They tear you up.
So yeah, what are you focusing on right now? Are you working on your jits game more right now?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm still kind of doing everything, but for me personally, it's not pulling the trigger yet. You know, if I'm looking to fight March 4th and I'm looking for a big fight, but they might come back to me and say, you know what, we're going to give you the big fight, but it's going to be in April.
Right.
Now I have another month, so I don't want to burn myself out. I don't want to have all systems go. So I'm going through the motions right now. I'm just not doing everything 110%. I'm just going to the gym, I'm getting better, I'm getting my technique, and I'm staying in shape. That way when I get the call, I'm already there. I just have to turn it up a notch. So
cool. Well, and you obviously know when you do get the call, either we're announcing it on the podcast or we'll make a special broadcast.
That's it. We're going to do that. We're going to do it this time.
Sure.
I always want to do that. I always want to do that, but it's always like my management that says, wait, we have to let the UFC release it and this and that. But as a fighter, we always get the word a couple days, a week early. But it's always like the UFC saying, wait for us to release it or wait for us to make it official. So it's frustrating. I have to keep that secret.
Yeah, well, and even if they announce it first, though, we get to, you know, we need to talk about it like, boom, you know what I mean, right away. Yeah, pre-recorded. Yeah, that's all we do is we pre-record.
Do a live. I have to do a live one.
Do a live. Yeah, do a live. We'll do a live. Love that Bill O'Reilly clip. It's so great. So this Saturday, he's retired before, but this time Tito Ortiz says this is really it. After his Bellator fight with Chael Sonnen this Saturday, he says that is it. I'm curious, Alan Jouban, if you think Tito Ortiz will go out victorious, or if you think Chael Sonnen, who hasn't fought in a few years, will get the win.
Interesting. You know, I tell you what, Chael Sonnen is definitely making a good case for himself. I've been listening to some of his interviews. He's passionate. He's determined as ever. Right. But you said it. He hasn't fought in a few years. He's been sitting at a desk job. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of previous success when he was he said it. He was juicing.
Yeah.
You know, he was. I'm supposing that he's clean now. So you take the factors. I just have to go with the easy guess on this one that these guys are both wrestlers that like to box.
Yeah.
Chael Sonnen is going to be the smaller man in comparison. So Chael Sonnen has not been as active, and he's off the juice. He could sell. You know, he could sell the fight to anyone. Mm-hmm. But I got to go with Tito. Even though Tito might be the older man, I got to go with Tito just on the safe bet on this one.
Yeah, I'm going Tito as well. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go to the show. I thought we could. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to be there in the building. But yeah, I'm going Tito also for a lot of those same reasons. Chael being out of practice, Tito not really stopping. And, you know, we have seen him in the gym over the years. The guy still, I mean, he still goes full force. He's gotten a lot of good looks at different gyms and stuff. He does a lot of work with Jason Perillo. You know, Tito, the guy really doesn't get a lot of respect, which I think is tough. I understand that there are things that maybe he has said at a press conference and maybe he mixed his words up or, you know, didn't say something as eloquently as he may have wanted to. But, you know, you have to give this guy a lot of credit for what he did back in the day, and the fact that he really hasn't stopped and has been so committed to it, I give him a lot of credit. The other thing that's tough for Tito is he has had a lot of injuries, and those have impacted how he fights. And it's tough because when you say something after a fight, you know, after Forrest, he said his skull was cracked, or, you know, he's had a lot of back surgeries and this and that. And he says it after a fight, and maybe it's after something he lost, and it was, oh, you're just bitching and whining. Well, it's true. You know what I mean? It's a true fact that he had to have the surgery. So it's hard when people just say you're making excuses if it's really true. I don't know. What would you do when you're like, oh, I broke my hand in round 1 against Bilal, so the rest of my fight wasn't as good? Like, it's not an excuse. It's a fact.
Yeah, it is. And that's always going to be a topic of discussion in sports. You see it in all sports where guys, they come at the press conference and they make excuses for certain things. In fighting, it plays the most part because we're the most injured athletes, I would have to imagine. And we need, if we have a hurt foot and we're supposed to kick somebody, it's really damn hard to get away with it. And NFL, these guys are super tough, but they have turf toe and they get out of the game, or we have to kick somebody with a broken foot. So we really need to be as close to 100% as possible. But when you immediately lose the fight and then bring up the injury, it's always going to have somewhat of a negative effect on the outcome or how you took the loss. So I think it's better to just kind of like wait sometimes and just let it come out in the media a day or two later or at the post-fight press conference or something. Just give it a little bit of time, because when you immediately allude to the injury, it makes it look like that's the prominent thing. That's the number one reason why you lost. So I think it's better to just kind of be humble in defeat and then let the injury emerge after. But I know what you're saying. He's brought it up a couple times. Yeah. Tito has done a ton for the sport, man. Again, I have Tito winning this fight. Yeah. Chael has this amazing story, which he swears is true, that he told his dying father that the last thing he told him was that he was going to beat Tito Ortiz. And Tito thinks this is a load of crap. Yeah. But Chael tells his story very convincingly. I mean, yeah. I'm listening to it, I'm like, you go get him, Chael. I don't know what to believe because he's so good at this crap. And I'm hoping that the story's true, and I'm hoping that is a fire burning inside of him, and that's going to get him through the fight, and that's going to get him the win. But he's got a big weight to push around in Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, and I really, I loved Chael. I loved working with him in the past. He was entertaining as all hell. And I agree with you. The guy can tell a story, and he would tell us some stuff sometimes, and we're like, oh my God. And you find out later, totally made it up, but I think that was part, and I've said this before, why I used to love working with him, especially on a live broadcast, because you'd look over at him and he's just got this look in his eyes. It's like, I don't know what this crazy dude is going to say next. And it was great. It was great. Obviously he does have the skill set. He could choke him out. I was floored that time Chael choked out Shogun as quickly as he did in that. So Chael always has a way to win. And like you said, the wrestling, they're both great wrestlers. But yeah, Tito is a big dude. I think he's going to have a lot of size advantage on him. And I think he's just going to have better conditioning and just be more fit. But we'll see. Obviously.
And a little reality TV reference to about the Chael story with you and him together. I've been watching the new Apprentice, right, and Chael on it, and they go to the boardroom and they have to battle one another, and Chael is quick to throw somebody into the bus, man, and he threw like Ricky Williams and I forgot the other football player under the bus, and they're like hurt, and Chael's just like, I don't think this guy is good, efficient at his job. He messed up. He threw negativity into this. He should be gone. So anyway, they fire one of the guys, and walking back, and Ricky Williams is saying, Chael threw me under the bus, and I was shocked. But then as soon as it was done, he gave me a smile, and I knew he was just doing his job. And people get it, man. That's Chael. He'll do what he has to do to sell it, to get the job done. And after, it's like whatever. It's all smiles after.
Right. That's funny. People should. I mean, if you didn't know anything about Chael, and he goes there and does that, that's pretty entertaining. And I'm sure, I don't watch the show, but I'm sure Schwarzenegger probably loves that too. He probably loves Chael.
Yeah,
I would think so. All right, well, cool. So we are back with UFC tonight, tomorrow. I'm assuming, I haven't seen my schedule yet. I'm assuming T. Wood and Stephen Thompson are going to be in with us because Wade will be going to a media lunch with those two guys tomorrow. So people should stay tuned to MMA Heat and look on our page and our MMAHeat.com because he'll obviously have all that footage with those two guys, and I'm assuming they'll probably come in with us. So that's going to be good. I'm looking to catch up with Juliana Pena later this week in advance of her fight. She is feisty. So I'm looking forward to catching up with her. But yeah, real psyched to be back for UFC tonight. We've been gone a couple weeks, and people are like always tweeting me like, "Where's the show? What happened to you guys? Where are you?" And we feel it too. Like when we're off for a couple weeks, like you're like, "Wait, I want to get in. I need to see my dudes. I need to talk some fights."
We're back, man. We were taking a little vacay, you know. Everybody, yeah, UFC tonight, everything, man. I'm glad we're up and going. Tuesdays now. I mean, switching it up over here.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, I think if I get a fight announcement, we should announce it on a live show or do our live as well, because I'm kind of enjoying it.
Very nice. Well, cool. And so where can people find you on social media?
Check me out, guys, at Alan Jouban. Nothing's changed. I've been the same. I still got the same cell phone number since high school, guys. If you need to get a hold of me, nothing has changed. Just holler at me.
That's sweet. There's all of a sudden, a lot of girls were like, "He does."
Oh, nothing changed.
All of a sudden, Nicole's going to be like guarding your phone. I love it. I think that's hilarious. I do not have the same phone number since high school, but no boys were calling me back in high school anyway, so I may as well have the same damn phone number. I couldn't buy a date back then. But they're all trying to be my friends on Facebook now, so suck it. Anyway, you can find me at Karyn Bryant on Twitter, Karyn Bryant on YouTube, KB Heat on Instagram, and we've got MMAHeat.com, all that good stuff. Also, Troca Sao, Evie, and I should be doing another Portuguese podcast this week as well. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And Alan, just stay ready, baby. Stay ready.
I will. I'll be in the gym. I'll be waiting on the phone call.
All right. And also, folks, remember, when Alan calls Eddie and we get BJ Penn on a next EBI, that was all created right here.
We're going to have a sponsorship on the mats. That's what we're going to be sponsored.
Cool. All right, Alan. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you
soon. Peace, guys.
Oh, and by the way, this is still here. We got some bids on the Alan Jouban Reebok sweatshirt. I'm still waiting for it to go a little higher, though.
Said Wade and Karyn clean their car with that. I don't know how good it smells, but I'll sign that thing.
Yeah, you should. Awesome. All right, cool. I'll see you soon, buddy. Take it easy.
Guys.